Hey folks, David Stewart here. I am back from holiday and I wanted to give you a quick gaming opinion, an opinion on some gaming news having to do with Elder Scrolls Online. This is a game that I covered on the channel last year with the first impressions video, and those first impressions were positive. But we've had a big announcement called the One Tamriel announcement that is basically going to change the game, I think, in a lot of ways. And I wanted to give an analysis and a little bit of a review and some opinion on what we could possibly expect from that and what that might mean for you as a gamer who's interested in Elder Scrolls Online or who has played in the past, and what that'll mean for the state of the game currently. I'm not a big time player. I don't play like a super high veteran level. I'm still just kind of leveling casually through the game. But I've played a lot of other MMOs, so I feel like I have a pretty broad opinion to think about this sort of stuff. A little bit before I dive into the announcement, I mentioned I did do a first impressions video of this. That first impressions video had to do with the One Tamriel version of the game, which is the buy to own plus buy cosmetic items and horses and DLC version of the monetization of the game. Originally, the game shipped with a subscription-based service or subscription-based monetization plan, and then they dropped that at a certain point and went with the Tamriel Unlimited, which is you buy the game, you can play it as much as you want, but then there's extra sort of pieces of content that you have to buy or you have to have a subscription to have access to. So if you have a subscription, you have access to all of them. Otherwise, you have to buy them with crowns, which is, you know, whatever their little currency is. All the free-to-play MMOs use some kind of weird little currency. This was a game, continuing this precursor, and because this is important to looking at what they're announcing. This is a game that was not well received when it first came out on PC. Wasn't well received by fans especially, and also not by critics. And I think there's a lot of reasons it wasn't well received. When it launched, it was very buggy. I avoided it at launch because of how buggy supposedly it was. And also, it was a traditional what some people call theme park MMO. Sort of think of, quest chain style World of Warcraft, so Wrath of the Lich King onward, where you're doing a series of quests that sort of establish a story. That is the style of play, and you're sort of, you're leveling up through the levels linearly, so the game's pretty linear, and you're doing quests to get experience and items, and then you're also doing instanced dungeons to get better items and to complete quests. So it's very, very close to what the model of World of Warcraft had established back in like 2004, 2005, however long ago it was. And of course, that style of gameplay is not what people are used to with Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls has a fundamentally different approach from its design all the way up that disappointed a lot of people who were fans of the Elder Scrolls franchise. I think people were very excited about the idea of an Elder Scrolls Online because Tamriel has been a great place to explore in all these single player games, and the idea of getting to explore it with friends, that's even more fun. And so people were really hoping to have essentially a multiplayer Elder Scrolls experience, and what they got was a very standard MMO experience. It was also very buggy on launch and had a lot of other issues. The Tamriel Unlimited version of the game, they fixed a lot of those issues and they made the game buy to own, and then added further monetization by having add-on packs that you could buy or you could get with a subscription. So that's what they switched to. I think it's been pretty successful. I think the game has improved a lot. The first impressions that I gave last year, the game is not fundamentally different than it is this year, other than this year has added a lot of other stuff. The other things that were missing from Elder Scrolls that people got very upset about was it was missing a lot of the elements that people were very used to in the standard series of games, I suppose. Especially like Thieves Guild. Being able to steal things was not in the original version of the game, and there was no Thieves Guild, and Thieves Guild has been added on. And also having like things like Dark Brotherhood, basically all the evil character kind of stuff was just missing, and it wasn't there. And instead you had a very vanilla MMO experience where your character was just, wandering through quest areas and doing things for NPCs and not really becoming sort of your own character. And all of this has to do with, fundamentally, Elder Scrolls has not been about leveling up or maximizing your character directly in that way. There's a lot of character maximization that happens over time in Elder Scrolls, and definitely I buy into that and I really enjoy it. But it's mostly been about exploring, and it's mostly been about freedom. And I'm going to posit to you all that freedom and exploration are actually not very easily rectifiable. They're not really in line with story. In fact, narrative probably goes against exploration and freedom. Exploration and freedom is anti-narrative. If you have a strong narrative in the game, freedom and exploration elements that you put in are going to be tacked on. They're not going to feel good. See Dragon Age Inquisition for some of the problems with that. And for a game that has lots of exploration, if you're trying to shuttle someone through a strong storyline, it can feel annoying or awkward when what you're expecting is sort of a more sandbox type game. With that in mind, that's what this patch is trying to go more towards. And what I feel like Zenimax Online has been doing since the game's rather shaky release, in improving the game and also releasing it on multiple platforms like PlayStation and Xbox, what they've been attempting to do is to make the game more of what Elder Scrolls fans wanted and less of just a generic MMO, which is what we kind of got at the beginning, including hotkeys and stuff. You even had like hotkeys. So trying to make it less generic and more like Elder Scrolls, and that means a couple things have to be altered. So this is what Tamriel's trying to do. With the DLC, they've added in the Thieves Guild stuff. They've added in the Dark Brotherhood stuff. So now you have stuff to do with your evil characters. We're going to go one step further. So with one Tamriel, here's the big one. Characters will be scaled to the same way we currently scale players to the level of DLC zones. And they give you some examples. So basically, your character is going to scale to whatever zone you're in. You're going to scale up or down to whatever area you're in so that you can do the content in whatever order you want. That is very, very in line with what expectations for other Elder Scrolls games are, particularly the three big ones that everyone plays now, which are Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. Now, Oblivion had the most freedom of any of them. Skyrim was a blend between the two, and Morrowind had a much more strict leveling system with the mobs, but still Morrowind had lots of exploration and definitely rewarded you for that exploration. So I think with Oblivion especially, you could literally just walk away from the sewers and do whatever you want, and find lots of fun things to do. And with Skyrim, you had like some giants that could kick your butt early in the game, but even the dragons would scale to you. So you did the game in whatever order you wanted to, and there were no restrictions. So that's what really this is trying to achieve. It's trying to let you do whatever content you want, whatever order you want. World of Warcraft is trying to do that with the Legion expansion to let you do whatever quest change you want, whatever zone you want, in whatever order you want. Some people are not super happy about that. Some people are not going to be super happy about this. I think it's actually pretty cool. I think that will definitely make it feel more like an Elder Scrolls game to a lot of people who are coming from the Elder Scrolls experience. We're getting closer to that multiplayer Elder Scrolls experience and a little further away from the generic MMO experience. The next thing, you'll be able to explore the entire world in any sequence you wish. There you go. So everything's going to be level to you. You'll be able to play in group with anyone in the game at any time. Everyone's basically going to be scaled to whatever quest area you're in, so whatever friends you have, you could play at any time. The other thing is that there's no more PvE factions, no more separate factions for doing PvE, which is a big thing, and I think a very positive thing. There's no reason why a Khajiit wouldn't want to go with a different alliance if you wanted to. They haven't removed that from PvP, but I think PvP is kind of its own thing, so that's kind of okay. I'm not a big fan of player factions, especially in a PvE game, and maybe I could do a video specifically on this, but there's practical reasons why you don't like to have split player factions. The big one is you're cutting your population in half, which means there's only half as many people to group with for any given person on any given server, and I know Elder Scrolls Online uses like a mega server kind of thing. But there's less people to group with, especially at max level in a game like World of Warcraft. Having half the people on one side, half the people on the other means there's half as many people to recruit for your guild. It also makes things kind of artificial. Like there's someone with a red name over them and you're like, well, I guess I should kill them because they have a red name. That's not organic. You have no real reason. You have no personal reason to kill that person. I'm kind of a fan of free-for-all PvP in the right circumstances, but I'm okay with also just PvE. I think that's fine. So no more PvE alliance restrictions. That means you can play with whatever friend, with whatever race character he has, and have a great time doing it. And everything's just going to kind of scale to whatever you need to do there, and there will still be factions in PvP, as I mentioned, and higher level players will be the same level as lower level players, but they'll have far more tools in their arsenal, better gear, more abilities, and of course champion points. So even though you might be scaled down to a zone, you'll still get to keep your higher level skills, your better gear. So you still feel at an advantage as you're building your character, which I feel like is very much in line with how the single player Elder Scrolls feels. As you collect more gear, you feel more powerful, even though you're leveling up and the enemies are harder. You still feel like you've earned an advantage over them by completing quests and finding difficult to find locations and killing dragon priests and all that kind of great stuff. And then there's still going to be the veteran mode stuff that will be locked to veterans, and that's fine. You want to have some in-game feeling stuff there too, so that's great. And I think that's mostly it. The Cold Harbor zone will be roped off who haven't completed the quest, so you could do the quests. You could just do the quests to get there, and that'll be fine. To me, I am quite excited about this change. Personally, I know other people will not be for a variety of reasons, but the reason I like this change is because I think it's going to move the game more towards what people expect from an Elder Scrolls experience. So I think it's going to be closer to what fans wanted from the get-go. And however, there's already a group of people who've been playing Elder Scrolls Online for quite some time, and to them that change might mean that they feel like they've wasted their time leveling up a high-level character. I think that I'm hoping that will not be the case, as you'll still feel like you have advantages from being a veteran level player. The other thing that I could imagine having a complaint about is story. But as I mentioned, like if you're doing everything out of order, then you're not seeing the story like in order as whoever wrote and designed the quests. And there's some really cool big quest chains in Elder Scrolls Online. However, like I said, exploration and story are in many ways antithetical to each other. Elder Scrolls is not about you going through a predetermined story. It's about your character, you as your character, developing however you want to, in whatever direction suits you, in whatever whim you want to indulge. It's not about you being the hero of the Alliance and being drugged through a set number of quests with a set number of cutscenes that tell you exactly how special you are or anything like that. Your specialness is created by what you choose to do and what you choose to acquire. It's about your journey and not about the journey that's been determined for you. And that's an important thing to think about with games, is that exploration is usually not compatible very strongly with narrative. And if it is, you need to make the narratives fairly short and easily navigated so that they're not really long, so you don't feel like you're just being drugged through a story you don't care about. You really want to feel like you're the one in control and can decide how and when you're going to continue on with that story. So overall, I think these changes are really good. I'm excited to continue playing the game in the next couple weeks. I'm hoping to give you guys a quick rundown of some of the DLC that's come out this year, because I haven't played much this year, but I got the itch to play a little bit, so maybe I'll give you a little bit of my opinions on that. And overall, I think this will make the game more accessible as well. So if you're looking to get into the game and experience it as an Elder Scrolls game, you might want to wait till this patch. I don't know when it's going to be dropped. It's supposed to come out this year. And I also want to give some props to Zenimax Online for really taking risks after the release of the game. Most people, or I should say most people, most developers tend to release a game, and if it doesn't do that well, they just kind of pull back, or just collapse, or abandon ship and make it free to play and just try to milk it for whatever's left. Rarely do they take the chances to reinvigorate the game, to change the game fundamentally from the ground up. I still think that the game is designed with that theme park in mind, so you're not going to have that perfect Elder Scrolls experience, but you're going to have a much closer one, and you're going to have an experience you can do with some friends. Whatever level they are, you can jump in and play with your friends, and I think that will make a difference for a lot of people in just the enjoyability of the game, especially if you're a casual player, which is probably going to contain me because of the limitations of my life. So if you're one of those people, hopefully you'll have a great time. I think if you're a veteran player, I still think there's going to be plenty of stuff to do that's for veterans only. It's just going to make the leveling experience a lot more open. That's how I feel about it. I'm pretty positive about it, but please give me your opinions below, especially if they're contradictory or you have a different take on it, or if you're not excited about it and you prefer the other style, you prefer a different style entirely. I will say, before I depart the world of YouTube for this video. What would be really exciting to me is if they dropped the PvP factions altogether as well and made you commit to one of those 3 PvP factions through what you did playing the game, questing and doing things like that. Like you had to complete a quest, you had to earn enough loyalty with the Ebonheart Pack to fight for them. I would love to see more factions in PvP in any MMO game. I think that they're really, really interesting, and I think having your relationship with factions dictate more about the development of your character, I think is a fun idea. Maybe they'll do that in a future patch. If you're watching from Zenimax, think about it, because if you think deeply about it, MMOs, and this is a tangent, but MMOs tend to really reinforce like racism. That there's an orc, kill it, right? Okay, versus there's an orc, could he be my friend, right? So if someone's from another race, they're automatically dead, which is a little weird when you think about it. And it's a little bit, I think, in a fantasy world where all these races are mixing, I think it's a lot more realistic to have people kind of commit to different sides that represent sort of their own personal interests rather than just their homeland's interests or just their race's interests, because the races obviously live all over Tamriel. So that's just some thoughts to add on to this. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Find my links to my websites below. I am premiering some content right now with a little American folklore story that I made up. And you can also read my book. The link will be down below, Muramasa Blooddrinker. It is a fun little samurai novel, and I hope you will enjoy it. It's 99 cents on Amazon, and have a great, great day.